In this video, I walk you through the key techniques and approaches for photographing pelicans, so you not only understand how to take the shot, but also when, where and why it works. For each techniques we will cover which techniques or approach to use, what kind of images you can get, how to create them, the lens and settings, the best light and weather conditions, your position relative to the subject, and the most common mistakes to avoid. Lake Kerkini is one of the best places in Europe to photograph pelicans, but strong images don't happen by chance. Most photographers who came to photograph pelicans don't really have a clean plan, they just react to what's happening. But before I even arrive at the location, I usually look at different images, compositions and ideas, and I already know what I want to try. Of course, you can't control the weather or the conditions, but you can control your approach. Most people don't miss a great shot because they can't take it. They miss it because they are not ready for it. But if you know what you're looking for, you start to see them before they happen. One of the most special moments of the day is early in the morning, and this is the perfect time to use one of my favorite techniques. Technique 1. Silhouettes or backlight. This technique creates a very clean and atmospheric image with strong shapes, light and contrast. Instead of shooting with the light, you position yourself against it and let the light define the subject. For this type of shot, a medium to telephoto lens works best, depending on how tight you want to be the composition. A slightly faster shutter speed helps keep the subject sharp, and I usually underexpose a bit to preserve the highlights and create a strong silhouette. This works best during sunrise or sunset when the light is low and warm. Position is key here. You need to align yourself so the light comes directly behind the bird and wait for the right moment when the shape is clear and separated. A common mistake is not underexposing enough and losing the silhouette effect. You can download all the technique cards, link in the description. The next technique is panning. This technique creates a strong sense of motion and gives your images a more dynamic and artistic feel. It takes quite a lot of practice to get a clean and detailed shot, but if you're the kind of photographer who enjoys more artistic images, this might be the right techniques for you. Panning is all about following the bird with your camera using a slow shutter speed. A telephoto lens works best usually somewhere between 200 and 600 mm, so you can isolate the subject and track it more precisely. About the settings, the key is a slow shutter speed, usually between 1/15 and 1/100. Aperture is typically around f5.6 to f8. ISO should be kept as low as possible, usually between 100 and 400, depending on the light. Use continuous autofocus and set your camera to tracking mode. Burst mode is required, because not every frame will be sharp. This works best in soft light conditions like early in the morning or cloudy weather, when the light is not too harsh but still bright enough for a clean image. Position yourself parallel to the bird's movement. Lock focus on the subject and follow it smoothly with your whole body, not just your hands. Start tracking before the bird enters your frame and continues even after the shot. A common mistake is using a shutter speed that's too fast and losing the motion effect, or not keeping a smooth and steady movement while tracking. These techniques take practice, but when it works, the results are completely different. Birds in flight. The next approach is to change just one setting and completely transform the image. With faster shutter speed, you can freeze the motion and capture clean, sharp image of birds in flight. Instead of showing movements, you freeze it. You focus on timing, positioning, and keeping the bird sharp in the frame. For this type of shot, the telephoto lens works best, so you can isolate the bird and follow it in flight. I usually use fast shutter speed around 1/1600 to 1/2500. Continuous autofocus and tracking are key here. You need enough light for this, so it works better after sunrise or in brighter conditions. A common mistake is reacting too late or using a shutter speed that is too slow and losing sharpness. This is one of the most dynamic and rewarding ways to photograph pelicans. The next approach is portraits. Portraits allows you to capture the bird's face, posture and presence in a clean and simple way. Instead of focusing on action, you focus on the subject itself. You frame the bird's face or body and create a strong, clear composition. A telephoto to medium telephoto lens works best to isolate the subject from the background. Use a wider aperture to separate the bird from the background. Single point autofocus is important and I always focus on the eye. Soft light works best for this approach. As a position, I try to stay at eye level and look for a clean background. A common mistake is including too much around the subject or having a distracting background. A strong portrait is simple but very powerful. The next approach is shooting from a low angle using a wide lens. Instead of shooting from above, you go down to the water level and get as close as possible to the birds. A wide angle lens works best, usually between 14 and 24 mm, to capture both the subject and the environment. I usually use a fast shutter speed to freeze the action. Aperture can vary between f2.8 and f11, depending on the light condition and the depth you want to achieve. This works best when there is interesting behavior and a strong sky or background to support the composition. Get as low as possible, ideally at water level, stay very close to the birds and keep your horizon straight. A common mistake is using a shutter speed that is too slow and losing sharpness in the action. When you change your angle, you completely change the image. If you're a person who loves the details, the next approach is for you, close up. Instead of photographing the whole bird, you can isolate a small part of it, like the beak, the eye, or the feathers. A telephoto lens works best, usually between 300 and 600 mm, to isolate the detail. Aperture can vary quite a lot here, usually between f2.8 and f11, depending on how much of the detail you want to keep in focus. But it also depends on how close you are and how far the background is. Shutter speed should be fast enough to keep the details sharp. About the weather, this works in almost any weather condition. A most common mistake is including too much in the frame and losing the focus on the detail. Sometimes the smallest detail creates the strongest images. These are some of the most effective techniques I use to photograph pelicans. If you want to use this technique in the field, you can download all the technique cards, link in the description. And if you have a favorite technique or approach, let me know in the comments. But there is more. In the next video we will cover techniques like minimalism, black and white, storytelling, freezing action and reflection. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.